Graham. Senator, you shorten that up to mean embargo blockade plus.
Yeah, blockade plus. Now, what does that mean? I love the idea of a Second Amendment solution for the Iranian people. To those who want to eliminate the Second Amendment in our country, no way. What did the Founding Fathers do? When they got to America, free from the king, they made sure the people would be able to be armed. The first thing the king does is takes the guns away from his subjects. The first thing a religious theocracy does is make sure that nobody can have a gun to threaten the regime. So if I were President Trump and I were Israel, I would load the Iranian people up with weapons so they could go to the streets armed and turn the tide of battle inside Iran. We don't need American boots on the ground. We've got millions of boots on the ground in Iran. They just don't have any weapons. Give them the weapons so they can rise up like we did to destroy this regime. A Second Amendment solution, I think, would go a long way to ending this war. If we can take control of the straits, if we can take control of the straits, checkmate.
Okay, my understanding is there have been attempts to do so, and they try to funnel it through, groups. My understanding is that, for example, working with the Kurds, they were stealing 90% of the weapons.
Yeah. What? Don't work with the Kurds, work with somebody else. And if you can prove to me the Kurds are stealing the weapons, the Kurds will regret that. I love the idea of empowering the Iranian people with weapons, a Second Amendment solution to make the Revolutionary Guard's life hell. It's one thing to be bombed by America. It's another thing to have your neighbors shoot back at you because they're tired of being slaughtered. Number two, the Strait of Hormuz is the only thing left. This has been a brilliant campaign by President Trump and our military. The nuclear program of Iran has been destroyed. Their ability to spread terrorism has been destroyed because they're on their knees economically. If we can control the straits, if we can take back control of the Straits of Hormuz, it is checkmate. This thing is over. To the American people, I know gas prices are high, and I know we're suffering right now. But you pay now, you pay later against thugs like Iran. They tried to get a nuclear weapon, and if you don't believe that, you shouldn't be allowed to drive in your hometown. Donald Trump stopped Iran from having 8 to 10 nuclear weapons by bombing their enrichment facilities. God bless you, President Trump. We were weeks away from a nuclear-armed Iran. No more. Everything has been obliterated. Their economy is in tatters. Their military has been decimated. There's more to do. If we can control the straits, checkmate against Iran, blockade plus, arm the people. And to our allies throughout the world who depend on the Strait of Hormuz more than we do, get off your ass and help us.
Well, they haven't been so willing to do so. I can't imagine that NATO in its current configuration looks anything like it does today when this is all said and done. I can't believe, I don't see any scenario under which countries like Germany and Spain and France and even Great Britain and Italy have America paying 2/3 of the freight for NATO's security when they didn't have the moral clarity to stand up against a nuclear-armed Iran and the #1 state sponsor of terror.
It is moral clarity. If you believe the Ayatollah and his henchmen would use a nuclear weapon as part of their religious doctrine, you would be right. If you thought otherwise, you would miscalculate like we did with Hitler. Israel cannot get this wrong. One Holocaust is enough. We know, you know, and I know, if Iran had a nuclear weapon, they would use it in the name of jihad. So Donald Trump is a historic figure, and I know the left doesn't like hearing that. He's the man that did something about Iran's nuclear ambition while every other president allowed them to go basically unchecked. How do you have 900 pounds of highly enriched uranium at 60%? They cheat. How do you have missiles that can go to Europe? They cheat. Well, Donald Trump has decimated their missile program. He's destroyed their nuclear capability, and they have been weakened beyond my imagination in 60 days. The only thing left to do is control the straits, and we can do that. At the end of the day, to our friends in Europe and throughout the world, help us reestablish freedom of navigation. Freedom of navigation is a core principle to the world economy. I am proud of Project Freedom. Project Freedom will work, and people should be helping us. What are we trying to accomplish? To allow ships to go through the Straits of Hormuz to help the world economy. That shouldn't be a hard thing to sign up for. As to President Trump, see this through. These guys are on their back foot, Mr. President. You have been brilliant in concept and execution. Just see it through. We're near the end now. Let's finish this in a way that nobody has to do it again. You're the guy that got it right. Everybody else got it wrong. And the day that Iran is put in a box, that's when Israel and Saudi Arabia will go back to the peace table. The day we control the straits, gas prices will tumble down. The stock market will be steady and growing. And in the fall, we'll be talking about peace, not war. The only reason Saudi Arabia and Israel did not make peace is because of October the 7th. And no longer can Iran, through their proxies, generate another October 7th. Victory is near in Iran. To the American people, President Trump got this right in spite of all the critics. God bless you, President Trump, for stopping what would be a nightmare for this world.
It does get difficult when you hear people just speak out of total ignorance and just make things up. Donald Trump did this because of Fox News. Donald Trump did this because of Bibi Netanyahu. Donald Trump didn't do anything of the sort. Donald Trump did it because he was informed by his Mideast envoy, Steve Witkoff, that they had the 60% enriched uranium, that they were less than 12 days away from being able to enrich it to weapons-grade uranium at 90%. And the president had said even before he became president the first time that that's something that he would never allow to happen on his watch. He followed through on his promise. Now it's a matter of just finishing this up. How do you now define victory as this seems to be in the closing days?
Regain freedom of navigation of the Strait of Hormuz. If they continue to attack our allies like the United Arab Emirates, the UAE has been champion allies. They've done everything we've asked and more. So when Iran attacks them with missiles and drones, we need to be there for the United Arab Emirates. If they do this, they continue to do this, attack ships and our allies, I would let Admiral Cooper finish the job, go against targets like General Kellogg indicated. I'm not a real advocate of taking Carg Island. I think we ought to tell the Iranians we will destroy it from the air. That will accomplish the mission I have in mind, which means they can never regenerate anytime soon to become the largest state sponsor of terrorism, and their nuclear program's been obliterated. We're close to victory. Victory to me would be regaining freedom of navigation of the Strait of Hormuz, degrading a little bit further, short, big, strong response to degrade their military capability a bit further, threaten Carg Island with destruction, and pull out and try to get Israel and Saudi Arabia back to the peace table. The ultimate victory is that Saudi Arabia and Israel make peace, ending the Arab-Israeli conflict, because Donald Trump put Iran in a box. He was not Obama. He was not Biden. He didn't beg them. He didn't give them a bunch of money. He blew up their capability to wage war and terrorism. You will go down in history, Mr. President, as being the greatest peacemaker in the history of the Mideast if you can put Iran in a box and have Saudi Arabia and Israel make peace on your watch this year. That is victory.
Well, if he takes out the IRGC, opens up the strait, and somehow if we can arm the Iranian people, I think this is game, set, match. Senator Lindsey Graham, South Carolina, thank you. All right, thanks for watching. Check out my new podcast, Hanging Out with me, Sean Hannity. The big interviews, the debates you won't get anywhere else. Like and subscribe for new episodes every Tuesday and Thursday.